Inflation has been very high in the recent years. In 2022, the inflation rate in the US was 9.1%, and in Europe, it was as high as 10%. This means consumers are now facing much higher prices for everyday essentials, such as food, energy, and housing costs. Needless to say, this is affecting how people approach their finances, especially when it comes to discretionary and luxury purchases. One of the most immediate impacts of inflation is that consumers are now more focused on essentials and therefore cutting back on discretionary spending to prioritize on things like food, housing, and transportation. This means luxury items and any non-essentials may be put on hold, especially for middle-income shoppers. For people who are still doing luxury shopping, they are now looking for pieces with excellent value for money. For example, consumers might only buy pieces that they actually need or items that they know they will put to use, rather than another beautiful piece just to put on display. Meanwhile, other people might be more inclined to buy timeless pieces which will hold their value longer, rather than splurging on seasonal items. The second change I've noticed in the recent years alongside with inflation is the growing interest for mid-range luxury brands. These brands are typically more affordable than the very high-end options, such as Hermes and Chanel. Personally, I think this is a very healthy shift in the shopping industry. I've tried several mid-range luxury brands before, and I must say the quality is impressive, especially for the price range that they offer. You see, a lot of the very high-end luxury brands are owned by the very wealthy organizations. For example, LVMH owns Dior, Tiffany & Co., Fendi, Celine, and more. So by stepping away from these very mainstream brands, it means you could use your resources to support smaller companies. For example, I've mentioned Kuyana a few times on my channel. This is a company owned by women, which I think is so awesome. I've actually been eyeing on their leather tote bag for a while. I think this is such a functional bag, and it looks so beautiful and low-key. I also really enjoy Atelier's August pieces for their simple designs and stunning craftsmanship. Sangmon is another brand with amazing value for money. To be honest, inflation or not, I think these brands are very much worth looking into anyway, but I think inflation is one of the key reasons why they have been getting increasingly popular. Some of you might remember, about 5 to 6 years ago, only a handful of the very high-end luxury brands got all the attention, especially within the luxury shopping community. In fact, I was one of the people who thought I would only ever buy Dior, Chanel, Hermes, and Louis Vuitton for my handbags. Needless to say, I now have a very different perspective, and I'm also very glad that smaller brands are now getting the credit they deserve. Another shift I have seen alongside inflation is the growth of the luxury resale market. The luxury second-hand market has been growing rapidly, and many think it will continue to do so. In 2023, the luxury resale market was valued at $49 billion, which is double the size it was just 4 years ago, and is projected to reach $52 billion by 2026. In the past, there was certainly a stigma around buying second-hand luxury items, but it looks like people are now warming up to the idea, which I think is a good thing. Personally, I've sold many of my own luxury items at huge discounts, even though many were in either excellent or brand new conditions. So I can definitely attest to the benefits of buying second-hand luxury items. Anyway, many online platforms like The Real and Fashion File have made it easier for customers to buy and sell their luxury items. For example, Fashion File has a buyback program, which allows the customer to sell the luxury items back to the website for up to 75% of the original purchase price within 180 days. This system gives the buyers the peace of mind that they can recoup a good portion of their money if they decide to sell. Generally speaking, buying secondhand is a lot more sustainable than buying brand new. This is because you're essentially buying what is already out there instead of creating demand for more production. This is a form of circular economy, and it can be a very healthy shift in the market. In fact, a lot of the growth within the resale market has been driven by Gen Z shoppers who are said to be more conscious about the issue of sustainability. The luxury resale market has now grown to a level that even luxury houses have started to tap into it. For example, Gucci have partnered with The RealReal to sell authenticated second-hand Gucci pieces. Similarly, Burberry also recently formed a new partnership with Vestiaire Collective. This collaboration allows you to trade in your Burberry pieces in exchange for credit. Personally, I'm very happy to see that luxury houses are now making more effort to create a more sustainable shopping option for consumers. And I very much hope that even when the economy is doing much better, this will continue to be embraced. Another change I've noticed, which might have something to do with inflation, is the rising popularity of subscription services and rentals. Platforms like VivReal and Bag, Borrow or Steal allow customers to rent luxury handbags, accessories, and watches for a fraction of the cost. This can be an attractive option for people who want to experience luxury items without having to make a long-term financial commitment. For instance, you could rent a Chanel double flap for $200 a month instead of paying $10,000 for the bag upfront. This business model makes it easier for customers to experiment with different luxury items without the burden of full ownership. Personally, this is not for me. I'm someone who likes to look long-term, and whenever I make a purchase, I like to know that the item will have a low cost per wear. But I can see why this might be appealing to some people, and it can also be useful for certain occasions. For example, if you're attending an event where you're expected to look a certain way for whatever reason, but you know for a fact that that is not how you would like to dress in your everyday life, then renting will actually work out a lot cheaper. It's a bit like renting a car in the sense that if you only need the car for 2 days, then renting makes so much more sense. But if you need the car long term, then it's more sensible to own a cheaper but reliable car rather than driving a much more expensive one that you don't actually own. From speaking to a lot of people, I feel like this inflation has affected most consumers, unless if you're one of the ultra-wealthy individuals. Let me know if you agree with this, but in the last 2 years, I can see the landscape of luxury shopping changing quite a bit. Not too long ago, it felt like everyone was buying Hermes and Louis Vuitton every other day. But now we can see more and more people talking about the more realistic aspects of designer shopping. This, in my opinion, should be celebrated because for most people, buying a luxury handbag every other week is simply not realistic or practical. So when we have more and more people talking about this, audience will be able to make healthier shopping decisions. I'm not sure if inflation is the only reason for this changing landscape, but I think it is one of the reasons. Now, some of you know I had already cut back a lot on my shopping years ago since I learned about minimalism. And this was when the economy was thriving, the stock market was having a good time, and my career was progressing quite well. Looking back, I'm very thankful for making that change because the fact that I've been doing low buy for so many years means I'm very careful with my spendings anyway. So at the moment, I really don't feel like I'm depriving myself of anything. In contrast, if this inflation was the reason for my low buy, I might cut back with a little bit of resentment. In any case, I think it's always a good idea to spend below our means, even if the future is looking bright and everything is working out for you. This way, if any unexpected changes ever come your way, you'll be able to weather the storm a lot more easily. Like I've always said on this channel, luxury items are completely discretionary, and so they should be at the bottom of your shopping list anyway. So if you feel like this is not the best time to do luxury shopping, it's okay to defer it until you feel more comfortable. In fact, I feel like a lot of luxury shopping tricks might end up costing you more. Like I said before, I don't like the idea of renting luxury items because it feels like overpaying for something that's not really that essential. Apart from renting luxury items, there are a few other things that I also don't recommend you do in order to supposedly save on designer shopping. The first one is buying smaller luxury items just because you need that instant gratification from shopping. This could be a wallet, a perfume, or a pair of sunglasses rather than a much more expensive designer handbag. I personally don't agree with the notion of indulging in small luxuries, especially if that small luxury isn't really what you want. And don't get me wrong, I used to do that a lot myself. For instance, I might walk into a Louis Vuitton store and I might really like a certain handbag. But then I'll tell myself, you're being really irresponsible if you buy this expensive handbag. But you know what? A small pouch isn't as bad. And so just like that, I'll buy yet another small leather piece that I didn't need. So I think it's really important to be mindful about this. Now, if you ever feel like you need to pamper yourself, there are so many other cheaper options to do it. For me, it means having a bath and lighting a candle, reading a book, or watching a scary movie. The simple truth is, luxury shopping should never be a hobby because it's simply not sustainable for most people. I'm also not a big fan of designer shopping outlets. I feel like the whole premise of outlet shopping is for luxury houses to sell their second-tier products, which are not as well-made and therefore should be cheaper anyway. But because of the brand names, consumers are made to feel like they are making a savings by buying these products. Not to mention, many people tend to do impulse shopping at designer outlets because of this mentality that the more they buy, the more they save. Another recommendation I have is to approach sale carefully. Now, if your wishlist item is on sale and you have the means for it, by all means get it, but don't buy anything just because it's on sale. Put it this way, if a luxury item is 30% off, you're only really benefiting from the discount if you actually want the item. Otherwise, you're basically paying a lot for a piece of clutter. I understand that we are all in very different situations, and how this inflation is affecting you might look quite different from what it's doing to another person. To some people, it might mean investing less. Meanwhile, to others, it might mean cutting down on necessities. In the comments, if you don't mind, please share how this inflation has affected you and what changes have you made to weather this period. That's it from me today. Thank you for being here. Take care, and I will see you soon.